All right, let's get right into it. When you hear the word grammar, you probably instantly think of, a dusty rule book, red pens, and those tedious school assignments. But what if we completely reframe that? In this explainer, we're going to look at grammar not as some rigid set of restrictions, but as the essential operating system for powerful communication. Think about it. Just like your computer or smartphone needs a rock-solid OS to run its most impressive apps without crashing, our thoughts and ideas need grammar to run smoothly in the minds of others. It's literally the underlying software of human connection.
And hey, if you doubt that, this classic humorous example instantly proves the stakes of mastering this code. Take the first version. Let's eat grandma. That is a lovely, polite invitation to share a meal with a beloved family member. Now look at the second version, without the comma. Let's eat grandma. Suddenly, we have veered into a terrifying survival situation, right? A single keystroke, a tiny comma, can literally mean the difference between a dinner party and a disaster. Mastering the code of language actively prevents these kinds of disastrous misunderstandings. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll define the language OS, explore why it matters, debug some common word glitches and punctuation pitfalls, and finally, we'll prescribe some daily habits to upgrade your writing.
The language operating system.
So, what actually is grammar at its absolute core? Well, it is the structural foundation of our ability to express ourselves. It's a comprehensive system of rules and principles that dictates exactly how words are formed, how they are arranged into sentences, and ultimately, how meaning is conveyed in a specific language. Think of it exactly like computer software. If a programmer writes sloppy code, the application glitches, it freezes, or it just fails to open altogether. When we use sloppy grammar, our ideas glitch in the mind of our reader. Language completely relies on this structure to make logical sense. Now, this operating system is basically built on three main components. First up, we have syntax. This is how words are arranged to form logical sentences, kind of like the standard subject-verb-object order we rely on so heavily in English. Second is morphology. This looks at how words are formed and modified on a micro level. Like simply adding an ed to a verb to signal that something happened in the past, or an s to show there's more than one of a noun. And third, we have mechanics. These are the rules of the road for the page. The punctuation, commas, periods, and capitalization that guide the reader's eye and clarify your meaning.
Section 2. Why good grammar matters.
I absolutely love this perspective. The primary purpose of language is to transfer an idea from one mind to another. The crucial point here is that grammar is not a barrier. It's the ultimate vehicle for clarity and connection. If your goal is to seamlessly take a brilliant thought from your brain and place it perfectly intact into someone else's, grammar is the delivery mechanism that ensures it arrives safely.
So, let's break down exactly what this standardized set of rules does for us. There are four vital functions. First, clarity. Proper grammar removes ambiguity. It ensures your reader isn't left guessing. Second, credibility. In professional and academic settings, your writing is very often your first impression. Clean grammar demonstrates respect for the reader's time and ensures your message is judged on its actual merits, not its structural flaws. Third, nuance. This one is huge. Grammar allows you to express incredibly complex ideas, hypothetical situations, and subtle shifts in time using different verb tenses and modal verbs like could or might. And finally, it serves as a universal bridge. While local dialects add wonderful color to how we speak, standard grammar provides a shared baseline so people across vastly different regions can engage with the exact same literature, news, and mass communication.
Section 3. Debugging common word glitches. All right, let's get into the bugs. Our first common bug is what we call the intervening phrase trap. Take the incorrect sentence, "The box of ornaments are in the attic." It sounds almost right, doesn't it? And that's because the word ornaments is plural. But here's the catch. Ornaments isn't the subject. Box is. The descriptive phrase of ornaments just got wedged in between the subject and the verb, totally tricking the writer. The correct code should read, "The box of ornaments is in the attic," matching the singular box with the singular verb is.
Now, dangling modifiers. These often result in pure unintended comedy. You see, a modifier is supposed to describe something, but if the noun it's meant to describe is completely missing from the sentence, it basically dangles and attaches itself to the nearest available noun. In our incorrect example, hungry and exhausted, the sandwich was eaten quickly. The grammar literally implies that the sandwich itself was hungry and exhausted. By simply injecting the subject, I, we fix the glitch entirely. Hungry and exhausted, I ate the sandwich quickly. Next up is the absolute bane of the spell checker, homophones. Because these words are technically spelled correctly, your software just won't flag them, making them the most frequent culprits in first drafts. It's without an apostrophe is possessive, while it's with an apostrophe is always a contraction for it is. Affect with an A is usually an action, a verb meaning to influence, while affect with an E is the noun, the result. And of course, the classic trio. There shows possession, there points to a place, and there is simply they are.
Here's another massive bug we see a lot: the vague pronoun reference. Pronouns like he, she, it, or they are incredibly useful, but they create super confusing glitches when the reader isn't completely clear which noun they replace. Look at this phrase: when the car hit the mailbox, it was damaged. Wait, which item was damaged? The car or the mailbox? The code is ambiguous. But by rearranging it to the car was damaged when it hit the mailbox, we immediately restore clarity to the system.
Section 4. Persistent punctuation pitfalls.
Moving on to punctuation, first up is the notorious comma splice. Let's be real, a comma alone is simply not strong enough code to hold two complete independent sentences together. The incorrect example tries to glue "the sun is incredibly hot today" and "we should go to the beach together" with just a tiny comma. It's structurally weak. To fix it, you either need a period to create two totally separate sentences, a semicolon, or a conjunction like the word so.
Then we have apostrophe abuse. Apostrophes have two very specific, very important jobs. They indicate possession, like the dog's bone, or they form contractions, like don't. What they almost never do is simply make a word plural. Seeing CEOs with an apostrophe to indicate multiple chief executives is a very common visual glitch. The correct version? Just drop the apostrophe.
Next, we have probably the most misunderstood piece of punctuation in the whole shebang, the semicolon. People often use it interchangeably with commas or colons, like in our incorrect example where it just awkwardly breaks up a simple list, but a semicolon has one primary job: linking two closely related, complete sentences. The golden rule here is the period test. Actually, if you cannot technically replace the semicolon with a period, you really shouldn't be using a semicolon.
Okay, we absolutely cannot talk about punctuation without mentioning the Oxford comma. This is that final comma in a list of things, right before the word and. Now, some style guides drop it to save space, but omitting it can cause hilarious structural failures. Without it, I'd like to thank my parents, Batman and Superman, makes it sound like the Caped Crusaders literally raised you. By keeping the Oxford comma, you separate the list items clearly, thanking your parents and Batman and Superman.
Section 5. Building better writing habits.
So let's look at 3 foundational habits to really upgrade your writing OS. First, read actively in complex domains, stuff like international relations, public admin, or European history. Don't just read for information, actively notice how the author transitions and varies sentence lengths to keep you engaged. Second, read your drafts out loud. Honestly, this is arguably the single most effective trick in this entire explainer. When you read silently, your brain glosses over missing words, but reading aloud forces you to process every single syllable. If you stumble speaking it, your reader is definitely going to stumble reading it. And third, enforce an overnight cooling off period. Never edit right after you write. Your brain is just way too close to the text. Give it a rest so you can spot the obvious glitches with fresh eyes the very next day.
Habit 4 is a real game changer. It transforms the whole overwhelming editing process into a highly efficient workflow by isolating your editing passes. Think about it. Trying to fix a massive logical flaw in your argument while simultaneously checking if you use the right homophone is terribly inefficient. Break it down. Pass 1 is for structure. Does the core argument actually flow? Pass 2 is for clarity. Can you cut unnecessary words? And Pass 3 is strictly for mechanics, checking grammar, spelling, and catching those pesky comma splices.
And that brings us to Habit 5, a fascinating historical practice called copywork. Find a piece of writing you truly admire, maybe a highly authoritative essay or a just brilliant article. Sit down and type it out word for word. This physically forces you to reconstruct excellent grammar and rhythm. It literally trains your brain to subconsciously recognize exactly what a well-built, perfectly coded sentence feels like on a muscle memory level.
Well, we've covered a ton of ground today, from redefining the structural foundation of our language operating system to implementing some highly efficient daily habits. So I want to leave you with this question. Which of these debugging habits will you apply to your next high-stakes draft to ensure your ideas are heard exactly as intended? Remember, your ideas deserve to be transferred clearly, without any glitches. Upgrade your system, put these habits into practice, and watch your communication completely transform.